This black and white photo you see was taken in 1936 in Waldo County, Maine. A father, a mother, 7 children, and that old wooden farmhouse, which was their only shelter. The expressions on the children's faces, is it exhaustion, hope, or perhaps both? The silent determination in the father's eyes, the mother's hands slightly clenched, and right there in the middle, the youngest baby sitting calmly in a crib. Look at the photo once more. This isn't a still from a documentary. This is a family's entire life, captured in a single frame. Everything about that era and those days took place right in the heart of America's toughest time. In 1929, Wall Street crashed, and even 4 years later, the ripples of that collapse had reached small farms all across the country. This family in Waldo County, Maine, was caught in those very waves. Today, what I'm going to tell you isn't just the story of a photograph. I'm going to tell you about the era they lived through, that land and that struggle, because this family carried the true spirit of America. They never gave up. In March 1936, Paul Carter, a young photographer working for a federal agency called the Resettlement Administration, was on a documentation trip through rural Maine. Carter, born in 1903 and a young man who would lose his life at an early age, stopped that day in front of a small farmhouse in Waldo County. Before him stood a family of 9. The father, looking hard-working and weary, sat on the front steps. Small children stood beside him, an older-looking woman behind them, and right in the center, the youngest baby looking out at the world with innocent eyes from inside a stroller. Carter pressed the shutter. That moment froze in time. Today, this photograph resides in the archives of the New York Public Library and the Library of Congress. The caption reads, "Farmhouse and Family of Resettlement Administration Client, Waldo County, Maine." But who was this client? And what exactly did the Resettlement Administration mean? The Resettlement Administration was a federal agency established on May 1, 1935, as part of Roosevelt's New Deal program. Its primary mission was to relocate urban and rural families struggling in the economic collapse to new communities planned by the federal government. This family in Maine was a direct part of that program. They were a resettlement client. While the term might sound cold and bureaucratic, a deeply human reason lay behind it. This family's home was one of the farmsteads identified and included in the program by the federal government through the Federal Land Bank. And this program offered them a glimmer of hope. Living in Maine during those years was no easy task. In 1930, 60% of Maine's population of 800,000 lived in rural areas. These people, just like the generations before them, strove to hold their families, jobs, and faith together with a unique sense of community. So what was daily life like for this family back then? Before the sun rose, the father was up. The last chills of winter, driven by Maine's persistent winds, battered the wooden walls of the farmhouse. Tending to the animals, chopping wood, preparing the land. These were all burdens the family shouldered alone before help arrived. In the 1920s and 30s, farm children had to help in the fields, feed the livestock, clear the land, plant crops, weed, and assist with the harvest. Household chores like laundry, hauling water, and cooking were also tasks children were expected to take on. Look again at the children in the photograph. They are all dressed and they are all wearing shoes. This is a small but vital detail, because at that time, many farm children in Maine were often forced to go without shoes, even in the winter. Were the children of this family able to attend school? Most likely yes, but school was usually a small, one-room building. Several age groups would sit before the same teacher, looking at the same chalkboard. Children walked to school, a journey that winter snowstorms sometimes made nearly impossible. In the 1930s, farms were built on diversity. Various grains were grown in the fields, vegetables in the gardens, and fruit in the orchards. Small farms also typically raised chickens, eggs, pigs, and cattle. The Waldo County family's farm was likely just like this. They baked their own bread. Vegetables grown in the summer were canned to last through the winter. Nothing was wasted. But the Great Depression, it wasn't just an economic crisis. It also broke people's relationship with the land. The Great Depression shook rural America to its core. Markets stalled, banks closed, factories ceased operations, stores and farms went bankrupt, and millions of workers lost their jobs. National income was cut in half, industrial production fell by a third, and employment dropped by a quarter. It was at this exact point that the Resettlement Administration entered the lives of this Maine family. Farmers could use these loans to purchase land, equipment, livestock, or seeds. Furthermore, the program provided health services, education, and vocational training for participating families. The goal of all these measures was to help families establish a self-sufficient life. The program didn't just give money, it promised hope. And the way this family posed together in front of that wooden farmhouse showed that they were clinging to that hope. As of June 1936, the Resettlement Administration had more than 2 million clients. This number accounted for nearly 10% of the total farming population. This family in Waldo County was among those 2 million. They weren't nameless. They were a part of this land. There is something in the photograph that will catch your attention. The father's face. He is not anxious. Tired, yes, but not defeated. His wife, with her hands clasped, stands calm and dignified. The children's hopeful gaze toward the future, and the baby's smile, unaware of all that is happening. This is precisely the face of hope.
Paul Carter's lens captured not just a family that day, but a portrait of millions of people trying to survive during America's toughest years. This photograph became their voice, and today, it still speaks. The Farm Security Administration's photography program created a comprehensive visual record of American rural life between 1935 and 1944. This federal photography project was led for the vast majority of its duration by Roy Stryker and featured the most renowned documentary photographers of the era, including names like Walker Evans, Dorothea Lange, and Gordon Parks. Paul Carter was among these photographers. Despite his short life, he carried this family from Maine into the present day.
Waldo County, Maine, March 1936. 9 people, a farmhouse, and a family looking toward the future with hope. The children in this photograph have likely become grandmothers and grandfathers by now. Perhaps the grandfather or grandmother of someone watching this video once sat right there at the top of those steps. The true history of America isn't hidden in books. It's hidden in photographs like this, in every line, in every eye, in every old wooden shingle wall. This family fought for something, and they won, because they are here. They are still here. We remember them. This is untimeless American memories. Real stories, real people, the real America. Thank you for watching until the very end. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.